So for me, what I heard that impacted my choice to be a Christian or not, what I heard was the words in a book. And a guy invited me to read this book, and I for sure would have made a bet that this book was not going to have an impact on my life. It was antiquated, written probably by white people, old, I think was okay with slavery. And besides, I burn sage and I like do Vipassana retreats and I meditate. Okay? Me and God are fine. I was lost, I'm found now. I'm sober. But then life showed up and I found that I myself, with whatever I had at my disposal, it wasn't sufficient to deal with this trauma in my life. And this trauma was having an unmistakable negative impact on my life. And I knew that if I couldn't find a result to this trauma, I could become damaged goods, I thought. I thought, oh, this is how people become damaged goods. Something happens to them and they don't have the tools to deal with it, so it's with them forever. I was like, damn, this is what's happening to me right now. And then this dude invited me to read this book. And I said yes, just to be polite. And this book was fascinating. It was like way better than Netflix. There was like murder and all the dope things that are interesting in like movies and stories. Like this was the most filled, intriguing. Now there were some parts of the book that were just like, holy cow, shit is boring as hell. But as a whole, it's way better than Netflix. And then it was unique, and that it drew out a relatability to me, to the characters in the book, like exactly. Like they get help and then they forget who helped them and their life would go bad, and then they remember and they go to the thing that like helped them, and then it get better. And they're always whining and complaining, and I was like, that is me for sure. There's this one part in the book where like they're getting chased by like the enemy of the time, and they have a cliff on one side, and a river on the other side, like a body of water, and like one of the characters like does something and the waters part and they walk through and then it crushes their enemy. Like this is amazing. This is like fascinating stuff. And then 3 days after they saw that, which if it's true, I mean, come on. I lived on the Mississippi River. If all of a sudden the Mississippi stopped flowing and like arose and parting and then it was dry on the ground, and 3 days after they saw that, they were without water and they started complaining about how they should go back to being slaves because at least they had water and stuff and garlic. I was like, yeah, I bet you I'd be bitching too. 3 days without water in the desert? Fuck yeah, I'd be bitching. And I was like, oh, I'm these guys. And then in that book, there was like, it introduced something new. Wasn't new, but it was new. That there could be a vibe that I could get with. A way of being. It instructed me in ways that if I followed through with them, I would become a different person. I'd be like reborn. And the guy who took me through that book, after we finished it took us 9 months every day from 8 till 9:30. At the end, I was like, what now? And he goes, cultivate. I said, what the fuck is that? And he shook his head. And he said, every day be in the Word and die of yourself. And he said, Paul, worry about the root, not the fruit. Fruits of the Spirit. The reward. The prize. The good shit. Don't worry about that. Worry about the root. He said, because if a person like you worries and focuses on the fruit, you're going to go to the grocery store, buy some fruit, and hang it like a Christmas ornament. For sure, he was right. And then I did that. Then all of a sudden, that trauma, like I could see a light at the end of the tunnel. Then I found like solution to the trauma. Then I had to move across the country. And by this time, God had established a track record in my life. I was lost and I seemed to be found. I was blind and I seemed to maybe being able to see. So I let him lead, and he told me to let my arch nemesis, if I had one, the mother of my child, lead. And I was not okay with that. That was not my plan at all. But I was obedient. And it turned out like fucking amazing. Amazing. My plan entitled, not the desire to go to war, but the willingness to. Me in front of a court in order to articulate the wrong that was done to me and to ask for justice, I was up for that. I was not intimidated by that in any way. I knew what I was going to say and how I was going to say it. And he told me, nah, let her lead. So for 3 years, I saw our child 2 days a month. The only thing I asked for at court and mediation was I'd like to take my daughter to church. That was the only thing I asked for. Only thing. Because her mother said, hey, at some point I understand you want 50-50. I was like, all right, as long as that's the agreement. At some point, you know that I came across the country because I want to be a father. And whenever you're cool with that, that's what we'll do. She said, yes. And I said, okay. Well, that means if for some reason something gets weird in the future, I'm going to be able to tell our daughter, the reason why it got weird is because your mother did not keep her word. She said, I understand. And for 3 years, there were moments where I wanted to take the reins and I didn't, For 3 years, nothing went my way. But purpose emerged in my life through obedience. So I started feeding the homeless more than I ever had, just by myself. And I fed like 9,000 people in like 9 months or something. And I met some amazing people, and some of them asked me to be the godfather of their child. They were going to get rid of their child. And, it was the first human that this God, this power that I had formed a relationship with, told me, instructed me when I was in this person's presence for the first time. You're to love her. So I did that. And then she kept the kid and we got her into her own 2-bedroom place. She's in school now for criminology. She's an amazing mom. She's read to her daughter Nova over 315 books. Her daughter's 2. She's exceptional. And 2 weeks ago, she asked if she said that she wanted to get baptized, you know. And that gave me like, oh, I can do this, man. This is way better than the shit I was doing. Making money fucking bitches and, doing whatever the fuck. I was good at it. This was like, it defined me. I knew I was a good person, you know. The moment when we were in the hospital and Nova was just born and her friends were leaving and I was going to leave to be appropriate, and she said, hey, you can stay. And I knew that was her asking me, hey, will you stay and watch my newborn so I can fucking sleep? And I'm sitting there and she's sleeping and the baby's over there and I'm like, wow, yeah, like she trusts me, and she should, because I often wonder if I'm a good person. I do enough weird shit. But here it was like I was obedient to this thing, doing this kind of new thing. I normally would have pursued a relationship with the gal at some point. Maybe she was extremely attractive and intelligent and articulate and engaging and athletic and hilarious and like, yeah, why not? And I'd become celibate earlier. I'm 3 years celibate now, so like that wasn't. I knew she wasn't my wife, so that wasn't even in the mix. So as a result of my celibacy, I was able to sit in the presence of women without an urge or a motive. And my experience was I was able to see the feminine and like its real essence. It was dope. It was like way better than just lusting after them. For sure, it was just cool. I felt like, wow, it's cool. And feeding the homeless. I learned through the obedience of that it's the foot in. I can see why Jesus told them to go like feed people and why the early church did that. Because it's like the most basic human necessity or desire that you can pretty easily fulfill. So you do that, and I just play some gospel music, and then some people would come and say, hey, you go to church, or you pastor or something? I said, no, I just used to be homeless. Yeah, I used to smoke crack and meth, and I was homeless in Long Beach, and I was really lost, and then I got sober, and now, like, I remember when people used to feed me when I was homeless, and it was really cool. It would be like my only warm meal. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. And then they'd talk about my gospel music, and then something would come over me, and it'd be like, talk to them about God, and then they were saved, and some were baptized, and it was like, oh, okay, this is purpose. Like this is dope too. So that's why I'm a Christian, a follower of the way, a believer in the ministry of Jesus Christ, the only begotten Son of God, the creator of the universe. So I thought it was fucking weird at first, and then I was willing to fucking believe it, man. Fuck it, I was lost, gone. Then I was found. I was blind, and then I could see who I was and why I was adopted, and why I had experience with drugs and alcohol, and why the pieces connected. So then what I do is I just I think I got sober and God gave me the pen writing my life's novel. So I did that for like a while, bought houses and business and cool stuff. But then I think the varsity level shit is me giving the pen back to God and like letting Him write my story. And I'm able to do that because I think the whole game is this. The whole game. What's the purpose of life? What's the meaning of life? You know, the whole game is to become more familiar with God's love for you. What have you seen? What have you heard? What is God? How has God revealed its love to you? Become familiar with it. One elder I heard, gnaw on it like a dog to a bone. In the quietness of your room at night. What has God done for me? When I did that, He did a gang of shit for me way before I fucking believed Him. Way before. Become familiar with God's love for you and then give that amount of love to His children. I think that's the whole game. And I love when the Holy Spirit gave me that. Give that amount, become familiar with God's love in your life and give that amount of love away to His children. I love that it said give that amount because then that becomes my indicator. How much love am I giving? Period. That's it. That's the game. Don't matter that I got a fucking fancy hat on at Sunday. It don't matter that I've... How much love